Sacred Games Season 2 is now on Netflix, and if you've not seen it yet, this is going to be a spoiler-free review of the entire season. I was very excited to see it after Season 1 and the way it ended off, and Season 2, I actually didn't know it was dropping right now. I was avoiding most of the trailers, and I pretty much avoided all marketing, and I wanted to be surprised. So surprised I was that on 14th of August, in the middle of the afternoon, my Netflix is saying Season 2 available now. I finally watched the season. I've been busy over the last day, so I've not been able to film this review in time. I really wanted to talk about it though, but at the same time I want to address the first season's review. Because historically, I think we can all admit, even if you follow my channel for a while, it's not my best review. I'll talk more about that in a bit, but as we know, at the end of the last season, Sartaj found out more of the plan. He found out that there is indeed something that is going to cause a massive explosion in Mumbai. And Ganesh Gaitonde, who's already dead, of course, has planted the seeds for it. But whereas that season was more a when and where in terms of figuring out what's happening and how, when it's gonna happen and stuff like that, this season, according to the creators, is more of a why and how. It's an exploration and it's answering questions about why certain things have come to be. And in that way, I think Season 2 is more impressive because it does something that second seasons can make a mistake with usually, which is it matures the show. A lot of times when it comes to a formula that the first season got right, in which case Season 1 did, it tends to sometimes follow the exact same thing again, because the creators can sometimes see that and go, okay, audiences like that. We'll make sure to do that again so that people like it the second time over. This show instead decides to take it and evolve the characters. There are new layers given to them. There are new perspectives given to them. If there's a character, for instance, last season who you're not a fan of, maybe there's a new take on them. And maybe there's a more sympathetic side to offer in some cases. And maybe there's more to offer in terms of how these characters have come to be the way they are. Maybe they weren't always like that. For all we know, they were much better people. The show explores that expertly, and it involves everything. The writing, the performances, Saif Ali Khan, Nawazuddin Siddiqui, everybody else on screen, fantastic. They're doing, once again, a brilliant job. But again, they're playing new layers of these characters that they have. It helps that there is the showrunners, Anurag Kashyap, Vikramaditya Motwane, they care. And you can tell they've put a lot of love and passion into this story, to tell this story and to bring it to the screen. And I would say this is definitely one of the better shows in that regard. The way tense moments, slower moments are handled, perfect. Not all of it's perfect. There's a few minor issues I have. I'll get into that by the end of the review. But like I said, I do think that this is an improvement on Season 1, even though I did like Season 1. I thought Season 1 was really good. Now, regarding the Season 1 review, I fully admit that I may not have been 100% ready to do that review when I was starting out. That was the first time I'd ever delved into something that was India related, which was so funny because I'm from India. I live in New York, but I just moved here a few years ago. I should be able to do more India stuff. In fact, I probably should. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not doing more of that. Anyway, my AC's on, by the way. If that's the noise you're getting, I apologize. It's kind of a hot day. And I think my issue with that, and I've not gone back to that review a lot because I know clearly, while I was even filming it, what I need to improve, certain rules that I make for myself that I hadn't really abided by, and I wanted to make sure I don't make them again. And so with that in mind, I'm going to make sure that I don't make them again. And so far, I have not with Season 2's review. So we're on a good track so far. But I have to talk about just the way this thing is directed. It is so slick and perfect. There's one very important thing when it comes to telling the story, and that is time jumps. It's constantly jumping between things that happened before the current events are taking place, where you're getting to see Ganesh's backstory and how everything led to this moment. And of course you have Sartaj and the rest of the police department looking for this bomb and the other terrorists of sorts. I'm not going to talk too much about that part, who are planning out this entire thing. And it's very seamlessly done. It never tries to do it in a way that it loses you at any single point. It's very clear on those transitions, and it keeps you engaged at all times. there's a lot of story revolving one aspect that's introduced very early in season 1 that I was kind of hoping would be brought back. And they did. I'll talk more about that in the comments if you guys ask about it as you see this review. There is a certain mysticism that's brought up when that thing first comes up, and you're like, I wonder how they're gonna go about showcasing this when it comes to season 2. And they did it in probably the best way I could imagine. Like, really, that was the perfect way of handling it. I don't see it handled any other way. It's very haunting in that regard, but it's just perfectly written and fits the show exactly the way it should. Another thing I want to praise about Sacred Games Season 2 is the violence in terms of the story. Now, what can be tricky when it comes to violence on display is that sometimes you can get lost in making it seem too stylish or just there for the sake of it being there, you know? Hey, we have it! Drop my light. Hold on. Okay. You see me, right? Like, this is fine? Yeah? Okay. I have to get stuff for the walls, though. Yeah. Where was I? Oh, right. Violence can be difficult because sometimes you can get so lost in the way things look and the way things sound that you lose the entire point of having it in the story. When used well, you can actually make violence be a really great precursor to a character moment. Recently in a film called The Kitchen, which was not very good, I saw it, I haven't reviewed it, but it's on a list of mine that'll be there next year. There is a moment in that where a character has to make a decision, and it's through a certain action, and it's handled in a way that has no consequence. It almost seems to be like, yeah, this was natural, this was about to happen. I always found that problematic because it was a very major decision this character had made, and now suddenly it was being treated as, oh yeah, whatever, moving on, I guess. In this season, there's a moment like that, but it's handled so much better because you're allowed to sit back and understand what just transpired, the consequences of it, and the eventual after effect that'll come up. And I think it's handled perfectly, and I think that is a mark of good writing, where it exactly manages to tell a story but also have its stylistic moments, have its moments of fun, you know. Just something I thought I'd point out. Like, that's properly done stuff right there. I think Saif Ali Khan is great. I know this character since the 90s. He's a really cool actor, but I think this is one of the better things he's done. It's very different from his usual role work, and it's very challenging. This character goes through so much, and it's handled perfectly. Nawazuddin Siddiqui is one of my favorite actors in Bollywood, and he did an amazing job. Once again, I mean, that's one of those things that never changes regardless of what you see him in. He's perfect in pretty much everything he does. So that's to be expected. I don't even need to say that he's really good in the show. You already know he is. The cinematography, the production, the set design, the costume design, the way the 90s has been recreated in this entire season, to certain other moments over time, to certain little elements, even the dark comedy stuff which Anurag Kashyap is known for at this point, handled perfectly. There's really great subtle handling of those things. And one other thing that is very well handled is the idea of why this is happening. There's a lot of themes that are coming up in this particular season, whether it be religion or it be science or whether it be money, power, corruption. And it's handling all of those different things because all of them have a part to play in this. Not everyone's walking out of this clean-handed. Not everyone's walking out of this completely okay. And the show expertly showcases how each one of those themes has a part to play in what's about to eventually happen, if it happens. Which I think is a really great thing, because at the end of it, there were points where I was like, oh yeah, there's a bomb that's about to destroy Mumbai entirely. But at the same time, for me, the show was really about, you know, there's the English phrase, absolute power corrupts absolutely. For me, that's what this was. Absolute power. This was showcasing how people sometimes have so much power that you have to just sit back and realize, like, you realize what you're doing. Do you know what you're doing? Do you have any idea what the ramifications of them are? Do you know what you've caused because of how selfish maybe you were, or how much you thought about it from a very specific point of view. Those are important themes, and at the end I feel like that's what the show is really about. It's about the self, either letting go of it or becoming so much a part of it, so much delving into it so much that you can't live without it. It's a really cool concept. That's really what it's always been about. And of course, you also throw in the religion aspect of it all, because that's a big part of this season. It's part of the whole why of the entire thing, and I think it's really great. I'll talk. I can't really talk about that, like I said in the review. I'll talk more about that in the comment section, because I know a lot of people are still watching this season as we speak. So I'm not gonna go too much into it. But yeah, overall, I did really like the season quite a bit. One of my minor little issues that I even had with season 1 to an extent was there were certain characters and certain things in it which I would have liked a little bit more of. Now, they were fine for what they had and they served their purpose, but there were points where I kept looking at it and thinking you could have done a little bit more with it. You had a few extra minutes maybe. Just my take on that. But for what it's worth, it did enough for me. I just think that there could have been a few more tidbits here and there, if you really needed them. But it's sort of a double-edged sword in that regard, because it's like I don't need it, but at the same time it was just a minor little thing that it was coming up while I was watching the entire season, and I couldn't help but think about it. That's just it. There's no point where it meanders. There's no point where it struggles to keep your attention. It's a really damn good season, and I really hope more people watch it. I'm gonna give Sacred Games Season 2 an A-. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Look forward to more reviews very soon, including a lot of movies that I have to finally sit down and talk about. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.